We have to go back to 2018 when I was studying at Aalborg University. I studied a master's in social sciences as my major and applied philosophy as my minor. We started our studies in 2017, and I myself was a young mother when I had my first son. I just turned 21 when I had my son in Denmark. And I followed a program, a Danish documentary about teenage mothers, and were, seeing how their development, and could see a lot of, mirroring myself in those struggles that they kind of met, of being young, but also being a mother and giving up all sorts of different things as a young person that you do when you become a young mother. But I've been following the program since 2009. And then in 2017, I noticed that a lot of the young mothers had their children forcibly removed from their parents. And also a mother I was very keen of. I didn't know her as such, but in my view, looking at all the other mothers, teenage mother that was also participating in this program, she was very responsible, but she was actually incarcerated under the suspicion of have shaken her baby, causing him to have seizures and brain injuries. But they found out that it also happened in the foster care family. So after 6 months in prison, she was released, but she never had her child back again after that. She did have another kid that she was allowed to bring home again. But then I started researching, like, is it all about violence, or why is a child I was just curious, why is a child, being placed in foster care? Because I've always had the perception and maybe prejudices about parents having their child placed in foster care. Prejudices about it must be child neglect, it must be violence, it must be sexual abuse, and all the common reasons that we know why we think children are being removed from their parents. And then I started getting, I don't know if it's kind of because I was searching the internet for answers. I don't know if it was the algorithms on Facebook, but it led me to a Facebook page where Danish parents primarily had a group where they sought advice to how to deal with different cases. And then I started to realize that there were some legal issues that they had to overcome about legal certainty and how the cases were handled. And then in 2019, I came across a post from a Greenlandic mother, and it was very clear to me that Danish was not her first language, and that her linguistic skills in Danish was limited. So I asked her if she needed help, because I could read that she was pregnant and that the municipality were aiming for forcibly adopting her child away. So I reached out to her, and in that way got involved in the case. And then I realized that justice doesn't exist in those cases, and that they're based on gut feelings from the caseworkers, that the case handling in the court systems are not efficient. For example, I always thought, when you go to court in Denmark, then you will have a lawyer. You will have several days to treat the case, and you would allow to have witnesses and video evidence and all kind of documentation from witnesses, from your family or other who could speak your case. But I found out that parents have 1 hour before the Child and Youth Committee, but also in the courts, where the documentation is mainly provided by the caseworkers' case files that they have written themselves. And then I also found that there were several barriers to justice for Greenlandic parents, such as linguistic barriers, navigating in the Danish legal system when everything is written in Danish. If you don't have a good proficiency in the Danish language, it's hard for you to challenge the system and make your voice heard and rights valid, or like to show them in the case, or like if you receive a decision and you don't know your rights, where to complain or what laws there, if you can read the laws on the specific areas, so how can you access your way to justice? It's just impossible. So we saw that, and from that moment I learned that in Denmark it's the law that the parents have the right to access the case files and also get them translated into Greenlandic, but also have an interpreter to the meetings. And I saw almost in every cases that I saw, there was maybe sometimes an interpreter, but the interpretation wasn't quality checked. And case files we have never seen a single document being translated into Greenlandic. So how are the parents supposed to know what is written about them? What facts are wrong in the case files? So that's where the thing started to roll, and then I came across this FKU test that they're doing. It's not one test, but it's a test that includes several different psychometric testing tools. And the psychology themselves decides which test they're going to use. It's up to them to decide what kind of test to use. So then I started to read the FKUs and like reading, and getting to know the parents. I couldn't recognize the picture that was painted in these FKU reports. So I was like, this seems like there's like something wrong, but I couldn't, I didn't have the words or buzzwords to figure out where they were. And as I said before, my minor was in applied philosophy, and my husband chose a minor in psychology at the first time. He later changed his direction. But then one day he came home and he said, cultural bias, cultural adaptation, psychometric test needs, to be culturally adapted and validated in a Greenlandic population. So we started to search in research archives about cultural adaptation of tests, and we found a lot of research about cultural bias in testing and how results could be lower than the population it has been validated in. So for example, if the test was adapted to a Danish linguistic and cultural context, when they used them on Greenlanders, the results would be lower. So in that way, it was kind of that way I got into it. And I've just always wanted to help people, because I know I have privileges because I'm half Danish and half Greenlandic. I speak Danish, English, and Greenlandic, and I had all the opportunities in the world to get an education. And I also wanted to do something good for others and give them an opportunity to receive some kind of recognition of dignity. That's my, main driver in it all. Yeah. I would say so. It's not, if any Danish viewers are going to see this, I don't think they would agree on that, because it's racism and discrimination, according to Denmark, didn't exist until just even 5 years ago. So it's very taboo to talk about racism and discrimination. And also because of the classic narrative Denmark has had about their own position and colonial history and modernization of Greenland, as they call it. So I think it's hard for many Danish people to acknowledge that that racism and discrimination exist, but I think it exists, and that's also what is reflected in the case files that we see. because as I went through the case files, I could see a lot of assumptions and claims about parents being alcoholics, having different psychological disorders, and assumptions about the parents being subjected to neglect in childhood themselves. Everything without documentation. We started to researching like, where does these claims come from and where is the documentation of it? So we started to ask, well, it says here that she has a personality disorder, that she has borderline, or that she's unstable, psychologically unstable. So we started to backtrack, all the case, and going through the case files. And then we saw a lot of, for example, there's a psychological diagnosis that they had received, which was used as facts in courts, that they actually came from caseworkers or family consultants who do not have the necessary educational backgrounds to make such diagnosis. So that's when we started, writing complaints, and it really has been hard to get any confirmation on and changing, the facts in the case files, because the argument from the caseworkers' side is that we have the right to do those assessments as professionals. So although you don't agree, we can't remove it from the case, although we refer to, the law of, regarding GDPR. So it has just proved to be, the whole legal system in Denmark, it has just shown to be completely rotten in so many ways. There's so many, barriers to justice, not only for Greenlanders, but also for Danes, I would say. But it is especially exacerbated regarding Greenlanders, because there is those prejudices and stereotypes and narratives which aligns a lot with like Eskimo orientalistic representations of Greenlanders, as we see, for example, in Alaska and Canada. Like, we have seen narratives about them before, that the narrative in the 70s and 60s, the narratives about Alaskan Inuits and Canadian Inuits and Greenlanders has been this, like, that we're uncivilized, someone who are in need of help, childish, and so on. And up through the 70s, 80s, 90s, that narrative has shifted more towards like social problem, alcoholism, unfit parents, unable to take care of themselves. So I definitely, that was definitely something that we could recognize in the case files, and these claims about alcoholism and social problems were not something that was documented. So, so I do think that there's racism and discrimination. It is hard when they say, for example, I want to have my kid back. They have a right to a free lawyer, but interpretation, again, isn't provided, and lawyers are not hanging on the trees, so to say, and they do not have many hours to go through all the case files. Sometimes we see case files up to 5,000, 6,000 pages. So it's a lot of work to do. You have to read all the case files from start to the end to get the whole picture. And that's what we did in our free time before. And lawyers simply don't have the time to do it. So they just use we have one lawyer that is helping that we advise on how to address issues and help her with, like, look at this and this, you need to bring this up. And but they used to just in and out of the cases, just like not going in the depth of the cases. So yeah, it has definitely been hard, and also because as an indigenous people who is recognized as an indigenous peoples by the Danish government, our rights as an indigenous people aren't considered in courts. They're not taken into account when deciding whether a child should be placed. The argument is always in the child's best interest. We have always argued in the Greenlandic child's best interest, because when we see the placement practice of Greenlandic children in Denmark, they're in risk of losing their cultural identity, their language, because they're placed in Danish foster care families or institutions. Their Danish peers aren't subjected to that identity loss as Greenlandic children are. And it kind of resembles the social experiment that was conducted in 51, I think, where 22 Greenlandic children were sent to Denmark to become an Inuit elite, to be the perfect example of how Greenlanders should be. So it's kind of the same effect that we have seen, and in 2020, the Danish Prime Minister actually excused for the wrongdoings that were done at that time. But I think that they should also apologize for the current placement practice, because regardless of if it is carefully orchestrated or not, the result is the same for the children. Many of the priorly placed children who are now adults talk about identity loss, a stolen language, that they do not feel like they can be, that they are Greenlandic enough, or and not even Danish enough because of how they look. If they look Greenlandic, people will racialize them as Greenlanders and ask them about questions about Greenland. What does this mean? What are the different cities' names? And what do you think about these problems in Greenland? And they are in no position to answer those questions because they haven't been provided with the necessary education about their cultural heritage and language. So it's the same mentality that we are not unable to take care of ourselves and our kids. We shouldn't have kids if we can't take care of them. So yeah, you can say that it's kind of the same, but if someone mentions genocide and Danish people hear it, they will lose it. You can't call it genocide. You will be publicly shamed in newspapers. I was publicly shamed in newspapers, in the Danish newspapers. I'm not a politician. I'm not a public person. As a private person, I made a post about saying that it smelled a lot like trying to hide their genocide. And it was actually written about me in articles as a private person. And being in Greenland, it's a small society, and the risk of being socially excluded and blacklisted is very high. So you definitely can't call it genocide for Danes, and I think it's unfortunate. And if it by law cannot be characterized as genocide, we need to change the law to protect the victims, not the state. So I do agree that it is genocide. And also, for example, in the law of genocide, it's also illegal to place an indigenous group's children within another group. So yes, I would call it genocide, or at least forced assimilation. I think you coming here and asking questions about the Danish Greenlandic history and issues is a very good place to start. We have had some, how do you say it? It has been positive for getting our side of the history out on the international stage, which wasn't something that was known of just 3 years ago. It was only something that was known within Greenland, and sometimes not even in Denmark. So I think it's good that we're bringing these conversations up, and then we need to discuss how to solve those different issues and how we can make the system better to respect Greenlandic culture, language, and ways of living. Because having another culture, norms, and ways of living isn't necessarily equal with, neglecting your child. And we also need to look at where we place the children. is it good enough to place them in Danish families and strip them of their identity and language? I don't think it is, because the children are our future, and if we lose our culture and language, what about our next generation? The children who have been placed in foster care rarely come back to Greenland because they have no connection to the Greenlandic society, and they haven't made those meaningful connections to have a relation to the Greenlandic side. So I think it's sad. It's also concerning that maybe in the future we will see that we not have such a strong culture and language as we have now. Now, you know, the 80% of the Greenlandic, approximately 80% of the Greenlandic population speaks Greenlandic fluently as their first language. How it will be in 20 years. So that's, you know, our concern, because speaking a language is also a key to understanding the culture. Yeah.